Hey guys, welcome to this short video tutorial for the Simple Transitions framework. What this framework does is allow you to create and edit multiple animations without using the Unity animation tools. So I've got a simple scene here and I'm going to show you a few things of what it can do. So first of all, what I want to do is have this in-game UI item start off screen and slowly move in screen. So since I'm focused on this one, let's hide the other one. So we'll hide that. Go to in-game UI, and first thing we do is add a transitional object. Then I want it to trigger instantly and move. So since this is what the camera can see, and since it's already on camera, we'll use this as our endpoint, and it just copies information from the transform. Then I'm going to move it off screen, and I'm going to copy information for the start point. Now, these two buttons are obscured. This is just because of the way and the resolution I'm using to record the video, but when you run Unity in full screen, you should see them perfectly clear. What they do is, if you look at your scene, and the game mode, it lets you see the animation play through. So you can see the start and end point to make sure that everything's okay. So I'm going to leave it as start point for now. Final thing, set the transition time, so take it 1.5 seconds, and let's play and see what happens. And there we go, it moves straight on screen. Really simple. What we can also do is, instead of moving on screen and staying forever, we can get it to only stay for a few seconds. So let's uncheck that and say wait for 2 seconds. So what it'll do is it will appear on screen as before, stay for a couple of seconds, and move off. So there we go, on, 2 seconds, off. This is quite useful for things like achievements. Okay, what else we can do is alpha and scaling transitions. So let's turn this one off and look at our other one. Here we go, this is the main menu. And what I'm going to do is add again, transitional object, trigger instantly, this time alpha transition. So this is going to go for invisible to fully visible, and let's start by making it invisible. I want it then take 1.5 seconds as well. Now let's do another one at the same time. Let's do a scaling transition. So it's going to make it go from small to big or big to small. Since we're already full size, we'll copy the current information as this here as the endpoint. And let's alter it to 0, so we'll start with no size as the start point. And again, if we look at these two buttons, we can see starts at nothing, goes to full size. So right, let's watch this animation. So you can see here, grow to full size. I'm going to put that full screen so it's easier to see. There we go, appears nothing, and fully grown. Okay. What we can also do is we can use animations to trigger each other. So for example, when this animation finishes for the in-game UI, I can then trigger the menu animation to run. So how I do that is I need to send a message. So tell it to send a message to the menu. Then this here lets me select what method I actually want to run. I need to thank the guys from the 2D Toolkit for allowing me to use their code here. It allows you to simply select a method from a drop-down box instead of typing it in yourself. So for here, the method I want is trigger transition. So trigger transition. The final one here is when to actually trigger it. So since we've delayed the beginning, we don't want that, we want finished. So when this animation finishes, we start the next one. To make sure that works, we need to make sure that this one doesn't trigger instantly. So it waits for something else to trigger it. And now let's put it back into full screen mode and watch it. So the animation comes on, waits, comes off, and then we trigger a second one to come in. Perfect. What else we can do is we can use this to link seamlessly with the 2D Toolkit. So we can use a standard button to easily control the transitions. So I've already got one in the scene here. Let's look at this menu, put it back so we can see it. And you might have noticed a little collider here. This is actually a small little button that I've hidden. Let's have a look, there we go. We don't actually need to see it, so let's hide it, but we still have a collider. So what this does, let me just clear this. What this can do, if you're familiar with 2D Toolkit, it's simply the same system as before. It allows you to send messages. So I'm going to drag the menu, so I'm going to tell the menu that on release, so basically when I've clicked it, I want it to trigger the fade out. So as this comes in and stays forever, if I click the button, it'll then hide. So let's give that a play and see what happens. And to speed this up, actually, I'm going to go back and have this trigger instantly. I'm going to turn this one off. Let's go back to full screen. So there we go. Animation comes in, and if I click this button, it should fade out again. So far, everything we've done is drag and drop and on a GUI level, which for most things that you need to do is absolutely fine, but you can also interact quite easily with it on the scripts. So I'm going to create an example script to show you. I'm just create a file down here. I'm calling it, you won't be able to see this, I'm calling this alpha change. There we go, and now I'm just going to edit the script. Here we go. So let's call it anything we want, because we're going to be calling this with a message. So public void change animation, and then what I need to do is game object dot get component dot transitional object of type transitional object, and I'm going to tell it to what I'm actually going to do here is, I've not explained this, I'm going to change the animation, so I'll go back and explain what I'm going to do. I quite like the alpha fade for going out, but coming in, it's not the nicest, so let's change it. So let's turn off its alpha fade and the scale as well, and instead let's have it move. So what I'm going to do is have this move in and then fade out. So the endpoint is exactly the same. I'm going to move the start point off screen, and I'm going to copy current. Again, we can view, so endpoint, start point, and we can play it again just to make sure this works. So instead, we're going to move on screen, and if we click the button, we're going to move back off screen. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a script, and instead of moving off, I'm going to use an alpha to move off. So let's go back to the script. So transitional object dot alpha is true now. And whilst I'm here, I might as well do a scaling transition because it looks quite nice. Scaling transition is true, and I'm going to turn off the movement transition, so that makes it false. And since this is the method that we're going to call, we might as well tell it to trigger a fade out as well whilst we're here. So dot trigger fade out. So what this will do, we'll change it to an alpha and scaling transition. It won't longer move, and it'll fade out. So if we go back here, let's apply this script to the menu. It was called alpha change. There we go. And instead of getting the button to call the fade out, we're going to get it to call this method instead. So we'll go back to our button. Instead of trigger fade out, we're going to change animation. Okay, so let's give it a play and watch what happens. Menu comes in, click the button, fades out. It's just some of the features of the simple toolkit. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching the video. There will be a second one in the series for more advanced features.